This episode is brought to you by TickPick, where smart fans buy and sell tickets. Check out TickPick for the best ticket prices for your next game, concert, or event, and use promo code PODCAST to save $10 off any order over $49. That's TickPick.com. Promo code PODCAST.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and
Welcome
Jeff.
everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we have a little Week 4 recap here. And Jeff, I don't know about you, I know absolutely nothing about fantasy football anymore, or about football in general. I don't even know where to start on this one. I'm lost, I think, now. I'll just tell everybody that.
I'm with you. Just when you think you're getting good at fantasy football, he goes and just throws you a curveball. I've never seen so many people I was sure were going to struggle in a week just blow completely up to like the highest point outing I've seen them do in the past couple of years. I mean, we could go into it. We'll get into all of them. But, I mean, right off the top, I think Cam Newton heard me talking shit about him because he just went just bananas and threw it to everyone, including Funchess, who I'm always down on. So I think I'm just going to have to wear this one as a crown of shame for the week because he definitely proved me wrong.
Carolina has been, I guess they're 3-1 now, which is still crazy, but Newton's been terrible. They go on the road at New England. You're not expecting anything out of this. The guy throws for 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then he runs one in and has 44 yards rushing, which is always what made him viable as a fantasy option. And I still don't think that's back, but if he had, it's just crazy. It's crazy. I mean, the Patriots probably are the team you're going to want to face the most if you have an offensive player now. Patriots defense is just terrible. Yeah,
they can't stop anyone. It's mind-blowing.
I don't get it. Funchess 7 for 70 with 2 touchdowns. I mean, we've brought up Funchess has been talked about a lot on our podcast, mainly in a joking manner because the guy's just never gotten it done. But look at this. I mean, this was with Benjamin out there who caught for 104 yards. So, I mean, I'm starting to think this was a fact that they played the Patriots now, which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to. I don't know if I'd like to, but I have to look at this as a fluky thing. Just by the other games that they played, obviously, already this year. Funchess 7 for 70 with 2 touchdowns. Benjamin 4 for 104 yards, even though I thought he was, hurt or hobbled. And then, like you said, Newton just insane, doing everything possible, including running. Once again, 8 rushes for 44 yards. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I never thought that I would say that. In the game against Brady, Newton was the guy that got it done.
It's crazy. And then even on the New England side, I mean, Brady didn't have a terrible game, 370 yards, 2 touchdowns, so he still was fine for fantasy purposes.
Completely solid, yeah.
And Hogan gets another touchdown.
Another one. I mean,
I don't know.
My guy,
maybe that's a thing.
Not letting me down. I give him that.
Yeah, I'd say maybe that's just. And then, but Brandon Cooks did his thing, 3 for 38. That's why we hesitate on Brandon Cooks. Both put him much higher than we normally would this week. I think we bought into it a little too much last week because we know these weeks are coming from him, the 3 for 38s. It's hard to rank him up there like we did.
It's up and down. And the thing that I found the most interesting is Deion Lewis going to push Gillislee now?
Yeah.
Gillislee went another game without a touchdown, so he went 12 for 49. And they did give him the ball at the 1 yard line, and he couldn't get it in late in the game. So that's scary for owners such as myself. I do have him on one of my teams, and if he can't punch it in, his stock plummets. And if Deion Lewis can get it done, 4 for 18 with a touchdown, it's just one more reason for New England to kind of screw with people because they'll use anyone. And
then James White caught 10 passes, only got 40 some yards out of it. So if you're in PPR, he did great. If you're in standard, he didn't do too much. But that's what they're going to be like. But how about the offensive juggernaut? This was unreal. 57 points. I know they had. Let's see here. How many were defensive scoring? Only 7 were from the defensive side of the ball. It's just unreal.
Oh, yeah. And the other guy that I really want to talk about after Cam Newton was definitely Watson. I mean,
he's
he
something.
was weird. It wasn't jokingly. We actually were talking about how he's going to possibly turn into a streaming quarterback. Do I expect this every time? No. I mean, this was ridiculous. He had 5 touchdowns, 280 yards. I mean, he did pretty well. He ran another one in. 4 touchdowns throwing, though, and 2 of them, which is very interesting, to Will Fuller, who finally got off the injured reserve list, came back in and immediately pays dividends. I mean, only 4 catches for 35 yards, but 2 for a touchdown. I mean, if he can get a rapport with Watson really, really quick, I mean, this guy is going to be, obviously, if he's not already, he's going to be a big add this waiver week.
Yeah, and then Hopkins 10 for 107 and a touchdown, so he's looking like a number 1 receiver again. And then Lamar Miller, 25.1 points in standard off of 75 rushing yards. He had 56 receiving yards and a touchdown in both receiving and rushing, which you don't expect 25 points from Lamar Miller. That hasn't happened very often.
No, I mean, I give the guy his props. I talked enough dirt about him because he usually comes up low, but he did wonderful today. And I mean, he killed it in both areas. And having the dual touchdowns, 1 catching, one rushing, is unbelievable. So I mean, there's nothing you can say about the Texans that negative today. I mean, even their defense went completely off, which was awesome.
Just completely stopped Murray and Henry.
Oh my, yeah, I mean, Mariota, besides for the rushing touchdown, I mean, he even got injured. Like, they were just shutting everyone down and turning it into pay dirt.
Yeah, it's just I'm just interested to see if this keeps going with Watson. I mean, maybe this is a find. I mean, in one of our main leagues, I think he's still out there on the waiver wire, so he's going to be snatched up in most people's leagues this week. He should be rostered at this point. It's without a doubt he should be on a roster. It looks like if you're going to have this kind of potential.
Yeah, I mean, at least throw him on your bench to figure out what he's capable of. It's very hard for someone to break into a starting quarterback position really in fantasy because half the league is taken up with like guaranteed players. You're talking about the Bradys and Rodgers, and then the other half, it's very difficult. So will he always do this? No, probably not. Will he have some really low games? Absolutely. But if you're in a position where you're streaming, he's definitely got to be on near the top of your list now, because if you can pair him with the matchups that you think are going to be good, which I don't know, we're gonna have to take a look and see exactly why we think he's doing well against the last 2 teams he played, but I don't know, it's really exciting, and I think he's going to be sought after because he's so young and because people don't know, so it's going to add like a level of cost when you try to get him off of the waivers, because people are going to look at that as untapped potential instead of like someone like Dalton, who also went off, compared to him, where you've seen him do this once in a while, but that it's not an every week thing.
And then I'm just looking at the running back list right now. Top 3 running backs for this week in standard scoring: Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, Zeke Elliott. So actually, one thing we do know, I guess, about fantasy football, those top 3 are the top 3 right now. Then Hunt tomorrow, maybe he'll jump in the top 4. So actually, that's the one thing I guess we know is we can rank the top running backs.
Yeah, that's very true. The unfortunate part of that is, just to bring it up, is the Dalvin Cook news. Not for sure, but it looked really, really bad. And the guess out there right now is that he's probably out for the season after looking so incredibly good. So one guy that was climbing up the boards very, very quickly, looks like he might have the end of his season come abruptly. And I don't know, what do you think about the waiver situation behind him, about McKinnon and Murray?
I mean, I think Murray should be added at this point just to see. I think he's going to be the main back. I mean, we've seen McKinnon. He just hasn't been able to ever get it done. I think they're going to give, but he feels like he's been getting more work than Murray, so it's hard to say. I'd go after Murray and see if maybe there's something there. But he did have 7 carries today. Murray did. McKinnon's 2, so I think it's definitely Murray is the ad there, and he won't be at his Cook. But I mean, he was a fine player in Oakland, so he could definitely be valuable.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's really going to be how many goal line carries can they get him, because I think that's where he could still yield quite a few points. Other than that, I think it's going to be a grind him out back. So if he plays in the red zone, he's probably a flex position guy. If they struggle there with him, I think he might be relegated to your bench, but he's definitely the guy that you want to pick up in order to find out. You know what I mean?
And then how about the Jets running backs? They just went nuts. Dude, what is this?
Seriously, this week is like an alternate reality. Both of them go just crazy. I think Powell had over 100 yards and a touchdown.
163.
163. And then McGuire almost had 100 with a touchdown.
Yep.
I don't even know what to think. It's like my mind is just overheating at the moment.
They were both boosted by big carries. McGuire had a 69-yard run. Powell had the 75-yard run where he fell down and everyone thought he was down, and he wasn't. Just got up and kept going. But still, even without that, he would have had about 20. These other 20 carries were for about 90, which is still something. In McGuire, he had 10 for 93. Yeah, you take that away, he still was doing something. Which, I mean, I don't know. I'm staying away. People are going to pick up McGuire this week, but you got to think he's still behind Powell, and Forte's still going to be coming back in a couple weeks. So it's the Jets, right? I mean, I just don't expect much from McGuire. I mean, we've talked about him a little bit too. It's just maybe there's going to be a opportunity there, but it's the Jets, and they're not any good. Despite getting they got the win today, I think. So
I know they did get the win. And I guess the Jaguars team that's been kind of doing all right. Once again, a guy that did well and came back down to earth, which I assume many of the guys we already talked about today are going to do the same thing next week. But Bortles, just terrible once again. So if you had any thought that he was going to kind of bring it back up and you thought you could stream him, I think this one kind of puts it to rest. I don't think I would ever trust Bortles.
Fournette, though, he's able to get his points. It's not a high yard per carry, but he gets carries, he gets yards, he gets touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to give him, as long as he stays healthy, they're going to give him probably 20 rushes a game. So he got 24 today with 4 receptions, and one of those receptions went for a touchdown, so that was obviously huge. Another great game for him. I mean, he had 20 points in standard scoring. Fournette looks insanely safe, and he looks like a very safe option for a top 10, if not a top 5 running back at the end of the year.
Some other random ones. J.D. McKissick just tonight for Seattle. He had 38 yards rushing and a touchdown. He caught one pass for 27 yards and a touchdown. So that puts him in standard scoring 8th running back this week. And that's just, again, ridiculous. And this is something that definitely won't sustain itself. I don't think. But he's playing I can't say for sure. It's Seattle.
What is happening? Like, today it's insane. And to give you a little more props too, I know Seattle went off for 46 points against a terrible Indianapolis team, and I did rank Wilson quite high this time around because of that matchup. But he looked good once again. I mean, he did it late in the game, but another 2 touchdowns and another one running. Both of these guys, Newton and Wilson, which we thought were going to run a little bit less this season, getting it done today. So who knows if they can still have a little juice in their legs, their fantasy stock will, definitely increase a bit. Once again, I think this one is kind of you put this one inside of a bubble because they're going against Indianapolis, but it's good to see Wilson be so efficient with 21 of 26, almost 300 yards with 2 TDs. He did have 2 interceptions, but
it looks like Chris Carson went out with an injury and didn't look very good. So it looks like his run already is over with Seattle. So what are you going to do there? I mean, maybe they are going to use McKissick. Maybe it's going to be Eddie Lacy.
I think Eddie Lacy, as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to be the consistent one. I think they're, like today, I think this is probably what you're going to get out of him. I don't think he's going to be a big-time scorer by any means, but he had 11 rushes for 52 yards. Maybe he'll get a touchdown here and there. But it feels like they keep looking for that other guy, and I don't know. I don't know too much about McKissick, to be honest. And there's so many guys there at the running back crew. But if Carson really is done for a long period of time, McKissic will get an opportunity. So if he can turn that into something, I mean, who knows? It might be talk about a dark horse coming out of nowhere. But this running back crew is just getting trounced with injuries, and they're just not looking good either. That line isn't helping anyone. I don't know. It's a very strange situation in Seattle, but they're holding it together, so they'll figure something out, I'm sure.
And be honest, I never even heard of J.D. McKissic until I think Wednesday. I think that was the first day I've ever heard of the guy. So,
I mean, he was so buried on the depth chart.
And if ProSize, I don't know. It's so hard. I can't even recommend anything because you don't know what's going to happen with it. It's just, what are you going to do? It's pretty much impossible to predict what Pete Carroll's going to do with them. So it's same thing with the receivers. No. They're all over the place. So it's just tough. Some other guys. How about Alvin Kamara? We've been talking him up. We've been saying for weeks. We said he's the back to own in New Orleans, and I think it's starting to come true a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, once again, and he does it mostly through the air. I mean, you just have to pick one, and he's doing very, very well at it. So he had 10 catches today, which is mammoth in that offense, especially when he's supposed to be the third, back on the depth chart. But 10 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown, and then you add 5 rushes for 25 yards. He looks like the best player there. Ingram, not bad, 14 rushes for 45 yards. But once again, Kamara is the one that's kind of showing that with that limited amount of playing time, he can do the most with it. And I think he'll keep gaining. And, like you said, we've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, and I think it's just one of those slow progressions. And definitely in a couple more weeks, I don't know, I just see them. I don't see any reason why AP will be on that team. I feel like they have to try to trade him. And with all these injuries to other teams, maybe someone will bite. I don't know. But Kamara, hopefully he doesn't get railroaded just because they have those other two guys that have him, because he looks like the more talented back.
And he's always been productive. We looked back when we were looking at his college numbers back in March, April. I think we were just amazed at the production he was able to do with such limited work. And he's doing that again. So what would happen if the guy was actually able to get a full workload? I mean, he feels like he's never had that.
Yeah, and that's what confused us the most going into the combine. It was looking at his numbers and being like, he was so productive. Why didn't he get more? We're wondering if it was injuries or what have you. So this situation is kind of what he's used to. It'll be very interesting if he actually does get the extra reps and see if there was any reason for that, before, or if he just explodes and turns into the next big thing in New Orleans.
Then how about wide receiver wise? Keenan Allen, 5 for 138, didn't get any touchdowns, but he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I wish he would find the end zone, but he's not disappointing, me at all. I was talked him up a lot, and but the yardage is there, so I really do believe he's one of those guys that will eventually find his way and get a few touchdowns here and there to really, kind of get him up to that next level. But right now, 130 yards. What in the world can you say about that? That's wonderful production.
At least Hunter Henry found the end zone, though. Got a nice catch.
Yeah, I personally needed that, but once again, he didn't get a whole lot of love. I don't know what they're doing, because he just looks so much better than Antonio Gates, and they keep trying to force that guy the ball. So
yeah, Henry only had 3 targets. I don't quite get it. I really don't. I feel like when you watch him play, you just can tell he's good. Gates had 5 targets, he had for 18, and Henry only 2 for 16, but the one was a touchdown. But he's better. He's a much better player at this point than Gates. They just need to use him. And I think I still been recommending playing Henry when you talk about players below him. People want to, I don't even know, I'd still want to play him over Jared Cook and those kind of guys. I think he's going to be getting more and more work as the season goes on. I still believe that.
I'm sticking to my guns at this point, but I do too. There's nothing, while watching him, there's nothing that tells me that a red flag or anything like that. I honestly think there's so many guys on that team vying for the positions, and they've had Gates for so long, that I think it's just taking a longer time for Henry to kind of pick up those extra targets and get into the swing of things with Rivers.
And then there's really not many other wide receivers that were big this week. It wasn't as big of a week for wide receivers as it was running backs. Tyrell Williams got 5 for 115, mainly off one big pass, but that was good to see from him. But other than that, there's not, Michael Thomas had another good week, but nobody's really standing out right now there, like majorly. I'm looking through here. Yeah, it's kind of a decent week for guys. Dez 5 for 98. He's keeping himself productive even if he's not when he doesn't get a touchdown. So he's been steady, not maybe as great as you want, but doing something. How about some of the disappointments this week? Sammy Watkins disappointed me. Very much so. 1 catch, 17 yards, I think it was, or something like that.
Let's be honest, though. This was probably the last game. They actually didn't. That was the crazy part. Is I thought they would have struggled a little more if he wasn't going to get catches, but they won 35-30. They beat Dallas. But unfortunately, this is what you're going to get when you have Watkins. And the even more unfortunate part is the next 3, I believe, opponents are very good defenses. So I think for the next stretch he's going to struggle a little bit, but. Yeah, I don't know. Goff didn't actually look that bad. I mean, he wasn't that efficient, but no interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 250 yards. Like he did enough, but they're leaning on Gurley so much nowadays. Even in the pass game, that's the crazy part. Gurley had 7 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. Are you kidding me? That is crazy. And then you had another 120 in rushing.
He's unreal right now. He's just
he is.
And then watching that game, I feel like Goff doesn't even look Watkins' way most plays. He's not the first read half the time. I mean, most of the time he's not the first read. It's just a weird thing to watch, and Goff gets rid of the ball pretty quickly. So if Watkins isn't the first read, he's not getting the ball. And that just seems to be what it is. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that he just joined the team during the preseason. So maybe that has something to do with it. Because obviously, like last week, when he gets the ball, he's good.
Yeah, and I think it may, who knows? It may be the coaching staff kind of implementing more of the absolute West Coast offense where you're pretty much giving it out to slot guys that are getting open really, really quickly. And, hence why people on that team, wide receivers like Cooper Kupp, who had 5 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown today, is because those guys are just working the middle of the field, these little things where, Watkins is obviously going to get the best defender and he's on the outside, where obviously Goff did not excel last year. So I'm wondering if that is kind of like a hangover, if he's not quite to the point where he uses his outside receivers quite as much yet.
Jeff, would you say a 12 catch, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown's a pretty good day?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty good.
What about if that's what your total is for 4 games?
That'd be less so.
And that's Amari Cooper's stat line for this year after 4 games.
Amari Cooper. Dude, he is got to be... I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. He's definitely in my top 3, but he has got to be the top 3 most disappointing players so far this season. I was expecting him to take another jump. I didn't expect him to completely disappear.
No. And we ranked him low for this week. We knew this was going to be a poor week, but this is even worse than I expect. Like 2 for 9 is just I know Denver's great, but they're why aren't you getting 4 for 40 or something? It's
exactly. They shouldn't be able to shut you out of a game completely. And then Carr got hurt too, and supposedly he's gonna be back next week. But I mean, Denver once again their defense looks so dominant. I don't think I would start almost anyone against them at the moment. Like there's almost always a better matchup, somewhere in the waiver pickup than whoever's going against Denver.
Yep. But I still might try to get Cooper in a trade right now, as I feel like you might get nothing at this point. You really might be able to get him for very little right now.
I agree, because how much could you actually, in a trade, how much would he go for? Obviously his name would keep him up there, so maybe a low-end wide receiver 2, but you should be able to trade him at almost like a wide receiver 3, because those are the types of numbers that he's putting up. I mean, he's not even consistent at the moment.
Not at all. So, the crazy thing, I might target it because I think the talent's there, but I'm not going to want to give up anything worthwhile at all for it. So, that's the thing. You don't want to give up anything for him, but if you can steal him for nothing, which I don't even know if it's stealing him at this point, you're just getting him for nothing, which is what he is. It's about... I might try. I still might try it.
Yeah, I don't have anything against it because, like you said, it was Denver, so, you take that into consideration. I don't like the way he's been playing. I don't like the way the season's been going. But, it's not like this is his rookie season or something. Like, we've seen him succeed in the league the past couple of years with the same quarterback. So, will things get better? I can only assume so, because they can't get much worse.
Demaryius Thomas only had 1 catch for 11 yards. Kind of a just bad game. Only 16 points for the Broncos, too. So, but Demaryius on the year, his best game is a 6 for 98. He's just 5 for 67, 6 for 71, 6 for 98, 1 for 11. Might be time we start moving him down the ranks a little bit. No more top 15, top 20. Maybe he's top 25, top 30 at this point. I think we might have seen enough to drop him a bit.
Yeah. I mean, he's still, good enough to get some of the yardage, but I mean, you can see kind of how Denver's going to play. They'll have a few big games offensively, but really you're going to let that defense do their thing, and you're going to put Simeon in there and just make sure he doesn't turn it over, which, I mean, exactly what he did this game, right? So 16 for 26, 180 yards and 1 TD, no interceptions, and pretty much you just pound it out with Anderson. You throw in Charles a little bit, and then you just, you take what the defense gives you as far as passing. So, I mean, when you can score 16 points and get out of there with a win, you don't have to ask your quarterback to do a whole lot.
No, not at all. That defense is something. Like I'm going to hesitate anybody I have going against them. It's going to be interesting to see Kareem Hunt against them. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, whoever has a good game against Denver, I will be very impressed with.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to see that. Then some other really big disappointments. I mean, Terrence West has pretty much put himself out of fantasy relevance at this point. He had 4 carries for -7 yards or so. I think he's pretty much done at this point. The last 2 weeks now combined, he has -0.1 over the last 2 weeks. So and once again, Collins had a good game. So my guess is they're going to give him a few more reps going forward and see if he can reproduce this. But 9 rushes for 82 yards. Buck Allen, 2 rushes for 7 yards. The crazy part is I never can understand how Baltimore doesn't score more, because they throw the ball just a crap ton. I mean, Flacco had 49 attempts, 49, and he only had 235 yards with 1 TD and 2 interceptions. Just a bad team right now.
Oh, jeez, man.
Oh, we forgot to talk about Lynch when we were talking about Oakland there. Lynch, 9 for 12. That's it, 9 carries, 12 yards. Followed up last week, 6 for 18. I mean, that's 2 road games, though. This is Denver, but still, what we saw in that first game hasn't really happened since. So, I mean, he's 31-year-old running back. They don't usually play too well, so maybe that's what this is going to be.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be a little safer. I thought he was going to get a few more touchdowns than what he's been doing so far. Obviously, I was, off on that number, because it's not like their offense obviously today struggled, but before that they haven't been doing too bad, and they're just kind of relying more on the pass, just getting away from it, giving them about 10 rushes a game. I don't know, the running back situation. We preached in earlier in the year, especially in the draft, about how dire of a situation that is, and how that's why we went so high on running backs, to make sure you fill those gaps. But with injuries and with people underperforming, it's getting even worse. I mean, it's becoming extremely hard to even field 2, let alone maybe having 1 for your flex or anything like that. And especially with 2 guys going down again today.
And Isaiah Crowell is one of those guys that's just a huge disappointment for people right now.
Yeah, I mean, Crowell, Lynch, Lacey. I mean, obviously David Johnson gets hurt. The Vikings running back goes down today. Doesn't look like he's coming back.
It's not good.
Bell took a while to get going.
He did today, though.
I mean, it really is. It really is
DeMarco
crazy.
Murray. He's just.
DeMarco Murray is another one that's been struggling, or that whole offense, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough right now. It really is. This is just. I mean, Jay Ajayi. We didn't talk about the Dolphins at all yet. The Dolphins' offense is one of the worst I've seen.
It looks like garbage. I mean, they had that one quick game, like the first game, and we thought, oh, wow, like Ajayi did well. Cutler actually looked okay. He was getting the ball to Landry. And then all of a sudden, nothing. I mean, they can't get anything going.
No. And I mean, Ajayi he got about 4 yards a carry today when he was actually getting a chance. But they just got down, and he doesn't have any room. I mean, Parker is making himself respectable, but it's just bad. It's a bad offense, and until something changes, I mean, it's hard. You're going to probably have to play Ajayi with the way the running back situation is. You can't bench him, and because you bench him, you're going to miss out on the big game anyway. But it's tough right now. I mean, you're probably still playing him, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. You're still playing him, but I think the most worry, like the biggest worry for me, is the fact that they did this. They laid an egg. They scored no points against New Orleans, who have been just ran every single week. I mean, that defense has not been able to stop anyone. So, them coming in and just not doing anything. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if that's a 1 week thing, but the way they played, it doesn't seem to be. It seems like they might be a very, very streaky team, and they definitely have some weaknesses that you can exploit.
Yep. Well, all right. I think that's about it for week 4. Jeez. I feel like I know as much as I did after week 1 at this point, which is nothing.
Right.
It feels weird. I feel like usually we just know more. I mean, after week 3, started, like we talked about, I think there was some things, okay, this guy's not any good anymore. These guys are good. It just hasn't happened. It switches up completely. So next week, Crowell's going to run for 100 yards and a touchdown, probably. That's most likely what's going to happen. Gurley's going to run for 20 yards. It's just going to get all flipped on us again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people that I was giving kind of a pardon to, like even Palmer, Carson Palmer, he had a really good matchup today, and he looked like crap until the overtime where he threw a touchdown to Fitzgerald to save his week pretty much. But I mean, like the bad teams played good, the good teams played bad. I mean, it was completely upside down this week. So I mean, I think the only thing that you can really see, you saw a few guys come out that are playing a little better, that have been progressing over the weeks, which we haven't talked about actually, but Abdullah is starting to put together some respectable numbers. So that's a guy to kind of look for, increasing his workload in the rushing game. But you can count on guys like Gurley, obviously Bell, Zeke, and you're starting to see the wide receivers set themselves apart as well. The guys that can really get that yardage and aren't touchdown dependent are becoming more and more valuable as we go along the season, because as you can see, quarterback situation is going to be up and down.
Except for Antonio Brown, a disappointing game today.
Yeah, that's just an unusual one. You take that. I really do think that's more of a. You're never going to not play Antonio Brown, but he is one guy that rarely disappoints. So it's interesting to see that happen. But even Dez and Beckham and AJ got another touchdown today. But all those guys put up enough yardage to make them worthwhile, even though Dez and Beckham couldn't get into the end zone.
And then the final guy, forgot one guy I wanted to talk about just real quick. We never talk about kickers, but Greg Zuerlein, 27 points today.
Oh my God, yeah. So if you're playing against him, I'm so sorry, because I hate to be beat by kickers and defenses. And this week definitely could, especially with the Texans as well, who scored a 19, I think.
Yeah, that's just an interesting week. I can't wait to see now what happens tomorrow night. I'm actually really interested in this game, Redskins and Chiefs. I just want to see Kareem Hunt now. I want to see what this guy really is. So
I do too.
I'm most interested in him.
Just a personal note, I hope Tyreek Hill gets nothing, because I need him to pretty much get 3 or less in order for me to win one of my leagues. So
3.3 you can get 3.5 or less, so 35 yards or less.
That stupid touchdown to Fitzgerald, no one cares, it's mine, but the Fitzgerald touchdown just screwed me. I hate that OT so much.
Well, if we're talking about, I need Kelsey to outscore Chiefs defense by 6.8, so cheer for that.
There we go. We
got some stuff to talk about tomorrow, or watch tomorrow. But all right, we'll be back on Tuesday with some waivers, and I actually think we have some waivers this week. It's going to be a much more interesting list.
Yes, very much. It's time to turn that dial up and definitely get these waivers guys going. And I finally have some guys that I really want to try to trade for as well, so we can talk about that and trying to get that team ready for the playoff push.
Yep. All right, we'll talk to you guys Tuesday.